I'm Eric here at Madness Autoworks, and today we're going to install a short shifter. What we're doing today, I've got a 10mm socket. I've got two different types of flathead screwdrivers, one thinner, one thicker. I've got a set of needle nose pliers that I'm using instead of snap ring pliers. I've got a pair of vice grips, which you may or may not need, and a hammer, which is always useful. In addition, I've got a hex key up here that should be included with the shift knob that you purchase, and I have eye protection because safety first. So the gist of this install is pretty easy. I mean, really we're just trying to take off this piece right here to get access to our shifter inside. This little guy right here can pop off. Undo this guy. We're able to get that out pretty easily. Just gotta be careful, apply gentle, even pressure. Otherwise, you end up pulling out the whole assembly. It's not a bad thing though, because today we are trying to get the whole assembly out. So these are linkage attachment points. We're gonna have to pop these guys off, and thankfully they're just ball and socket, so there's no special tools required, just a little bit of brute force. Thing done. Let's go ahead and get the rest of these guys popped out. Got that guy there, and check. So with all of them popped out, there we go. Now, you've got to be careful through that whole process because this thing right here is made of pretty flimsy plastic, and if you break it, then you're not going to be able to install or reinstall your shifter. So just be aware. The important part is we've got this guy out, and now we're going to get the new one in. Quick rundown on the difference between short shifters and short shift adapters. Short shifters shorten your up-down travel as well as your side-to-side travel. Short shift adapters are only going to shorten your up-down, meaning that if you go too far with adapters, finding third gear from second or fifth gear from fourth can get a little awkward. So these are linkage-based short shift adapters. These guys are going to attach to this point right here on your factory shifter. These guys are going to install on the transmission side. This guy right here is super easy to install. You can see that this Craven Speed shifter right here maintains the same length as far as this crossbar goes for connecting the linkage. And by lengthening that out, that's one way of shortening your shift. But while this remains the same, it's a short shifter because they've physically chopped the top on it. This Bonalume unit, on the other hand, has pulled the length of this linkage assembly out a bit further. So it's a leverage-based short shifter. Now personally, I really like this unit because it replaces this awkward plastic ball and socket type assembly with a much better plastic ball and socket assembly. It's just a better all-around unit. For reinstalling your shifter, or for reinstalling a Craven Speed short shifter, you're just going to pop the ball section of this back into a either replacement plastic clip section or the factory one, and then reverse the process. Now, on the other hand though, I'm installing this Bonalume unit, which I'm going to put in next, and now I think it's time we figure out how to get this locking snap ring in place. Anytime you're working with snap rings, you're going to want to wear eye protection, just because these things have a tendency to fly out. Apply pressure, in, and snapped. Next, we're gonna pop these linkages back on, the ones that we popped off earlier, and that's a really simple process. Just find it down there and squeeze together. Pop that guy on. Feels good, man. I like the factory shift boot, but I think I want to go with something a little bit different. So I'm in the process of getting rid of this guy right now. Just gotta squeeze in along the edges. There's a trick here to this. I haven't figured out what that is. I totally just broke this thing. In the process of pulling out our shift boot, we have broken the retention ring inside. May happen to a lot of you, which is why we happen to sell replacement retention rings. Using a cutting tool, I'm going to remove this genuine FIAT zip tie. We've got our replacement boot, and the next step is getting this little silver guy back onto your retention ring. I have the chrome section now reattached to the retention ring and boot section, and we have everything lined up. Snap, snap, snap. And our console is complete again. This is as good a time as any to change your shift knob. I chose this good-looking weighted knob by Black Italia for my setup. There's a debate between weighted shift knobs and regular shift knobs. I say when it comes down to it, just get the knob that's right for you. I personally prefer the feel of a weighted shift knob rolling through the gears. It's kind of hard to explain, but it just feels good. Try one out, you might like it. I flipped this shift boot around so that you can kind of see the back side of this. There was a little zip tie kind of around this side. Now, our Madness and black shift boots have a little bit of Velcro already behind, so you don't have to deal with that. Voila, that should look pretty smooth. There's a little alignment tab right here that is useful if you're throwing a stock shift knob back on. I'm gonna go ahead and remove it because as I start playing around with different shift knobs, I'm gonna need all the clearance that I can get. I wanna slip the boot over, and then I wanna take these little fittings right here for the windows and reattach these first. Okay, so that's in, line those tabs, the top tabs, we line the bottom tabs, those go, and now we can get our knob on. So, bottom side, and then comes this little adapter piece. It's going to go on top. Inside, you'll see that there are 3 little locking pins that are going to hold this whole thing in place. Draw them out. Now, we set this guy on, and just tighten these little hex bolts down here. So, there we are. We have a short shifter installed, and that feels mighty good. Everything about this, it feels solid. You have to think, how many times per day are you rowing through these gears? Are you making this motion? It kind of makes sense that you want to make this feeling as good a feeling as you possibly can. If you've never tried a short shifter before, I do encourage you to do so because it feels right, man. Several days later. I really wasn't the biggest fan of the factory ABARTH knob and shifter because it felt too padded and it felt a little bit sloppy. And so going from something like that to this combination of knob and shifter, it seems so correct to me that I find myself taking it for granted. You know, it's not like I notice it unless I'm driving somebody else's car and then I get back into mine and it's like, wow, I am really thankful that I have my setup and not yours, you know? All in all, I guess that's kind of the biggest testament towards something like this. You know, you're going to be using it so often that it just starts to feel natural. And in the end, I think I said it before, like you're making that motion so often, why not make it the best feeling motion that you can make it? Maybe that's why you should get a short shifter. See ya.
Read it like Sean Connery.
Using the special gripper, fit the supplied snap ring over the uniball system and insert it into the seat of the support. Press gently downwards to contrast the thrust of the steel washer at the bottom. Reconnect the control cables and put the parts dismantled previously back in place. Special gripper. What special gripper?